Politics, whether you like it or not, is a spirit. It is mean, it is ugly, it is nasty. And, when that thing infiltrates the church, then the church becomes as toxic or maybe worse. That the whole concept of power,
Right.
and favoritism and all that thing comes in, and things just go very, very wrong.
Right.
And I think we lose the alignment to the mission. We lose the alignment to the mission that Christ has given us, the Great Commission.
Hey there, you're watching What Was That About? Thank you for joining us for today's episode. My name is Moses Khan. I'm with Dr. Tony Saldana, who's the lead pastor here at All People's Church. How you doing, Pastor?
I'm doing good. Today is a beautiful day. Oh man, the spring has sprung.
So good.
Isn't it?
The spring
Bring
has sprung.
some global warming.
Oh my gosh.
We need global
I
warming.
love it. It is so
It is beautiful outside.
It's very good.
We're thankful.
We are thankful. We are grateful.
But we are in a studio
Yeah.
with a mean producer. But otherwise, we're thankful for her too.
Shots fired. Yeah, we are. We are thankful. We are grateful.
Yes.
Hey, you recently had lunch with it.
I did not have lunch.
Was it lunch?
Just a meeting.
Was it a meeting?
Yes.
They didn't feed you?
No. Coffee.
Oh, God.
Double espresso.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, you recently had a meeting with a Christian individual who is in the political sphere. He's running. He needs to get, votes and signatures and all of that stuff.
To be nominated.
To be nominated.
Yes.
Yeah. Elections are coming up next year.
Hopefully sooner, but yes.
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully sooner.
Yeah, but tell me about this conversation. I mean, with the details you can go into. This is a Christian individual. What do you think about this whole mixture of being a Christian and being involved in politics? I know a lot of people are. I don't know if there's a term for that. There's a term for being a Christian and not believing in violence. But I don't know if there's a term for being a Christian and not being involved in politics. But we know that for a lot of people, that's kind of
pacifist is what you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a pacifist, but that has to do with
yes.
violence.
Yes.
Yeah, a political pacifist. Is that I don't know if that's the thing. I just made it up.
Right.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of people that go, hey, listen, church and state, separate things for a long time, even throughout church history. It was like, hey, you don't come into our circle, we don't come into your circle, and that's how it is.
Well, there's this great debate about this, right?
Yeah.
Because, when you look at history and you see, for example, the Roman Catholic Church, when the church becomes political, it loses its focus. It becomes.
Let's stop there for a moment.
It becomes tainted.
Because you just said something very interesting. When the church becomes political.
Yes.
Okay, what does that mean, and how is that different from Christians being involved in politics?
Yeah. So okay. Let me say it this way.
Yeah.
I believe we're in the mess we are today.
Yeah.
Particularly in our country.
Okay.
Because people of faith, godly people, Christians, have vacated politics. Now we see a surge that is coming back.
Right.
Particularly in the Progressive Party, because the Liberal Party has basically told Christians and Catholics, we don't want you.
Right.
We don't want people of faith. We don't want people that have, biblical values. Don't join the party. Don't vote for us. We don't, mind you, they would take anybody's vote. But we don't want you, right?
Yeah.
So because Christians have vacated, it created this vacuum. And a lot of secularists, moved in. And that's why we have the insanity. I don't know how else to describe it, Pastor. The insanity that we are watching in our country. And our country, from a moral and social perspective, is being destroyed. So, that's what happens. When individuals leave. Now, the statement about when the church corporately identifies itself politically and becomes politically motivated. History shows that, things do not go well. That is not to say that individuals should not run for office.
Right.
What I'm saying is that sphere Politics, whether you like it or not, is a spirit. It is mean, it is ugly, it is nasty. And, when that thing infiltrates the church, then the church becomes as toxic or maybe worse. That the whole concept of power
Right.
and favoritism and all that thing comes in, and things just go very, very wrong.
Right.
And I think we lose the alignment to the mission. We lose the alignment to the mission that Christ has given us, the Great Commission.
Yeah. So when you're using the term becoming political,
Right.
that's you entering the realm or even functioning under the spirit of, power and access and competition and favoritism and obviously that can bring, motives that are so toxic.
Right.
Because then you go into manipulation, you go into not really caring for people, more caring about yourself and the prestige and the rest of it. So that's not what you're saying.
No, and maybe in America it's easier to identify. So you'll notice that not only is it about power, but then I believe that the shift also happens in faith and in trust. So in other words, when you look at America, particularly the Republican Party, which is seen as more the Christian right, if you will, with more biblical values. So then the idea becomes, well, if this party wins, then God wins. And, we will be on a greater course of morality, whatever. So it's almost like God is replaced because the political party now will help us and rule the day.
Right.
And we have seen, that there are some elements of that which is true, but ultimately that is a very slippery slope and a dangerous thing. And we don't want to remove our faith from God and put it in people or in a political party.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. And yet that doesn't mean we should separate from politics as, the arena and governance and roles, responsibility, influence. It means that we should be involved.
100%. I mean, you look at the Bible. I mean, Joseph of the Old Testament, Pharaoh's right-hand man, if you will. That was a political appointment by God. Joseph was promoted.
Yeah.
Daniel is another tremendous example.
Right.
You could even say that Moses, when Moses was in Egypt, that had that was a political role.
Yeah.
Now, what people often will argue is that Jesus never took on the Roman party. He never really dealt with
He didn't run for office.
he didn't run for office. And so here's my point. My point is that Jesus didn't take the church into the political realm, but there are individuals. There are individuals that are called to that particular mountain, to that particular sphere. They are anointed by God to be godly, to be influential, like we see in Joseph, Daniel, Moses. And they are there, can I say it this way? They are there to promote God's interest, to display who is in charge, who still is the power base, because the Bible says that all authority comes from God. Now, not all authority is godly.
Right.
We know that for sure. But all authority comes from God. Laws and policies. Now, we'll probably talk about this in our next program, but it's when these authorities become bent on wicked, evil agendas that things begin to go awry. And so they leave righteousness. What does the Bible say? Righteousness exalts a nation. Really, the government mountain is there to serve the people.
Yeah.
Somewhere, this has gone completely haywire.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you it's about serving the people, but really it's about a small minority, and it's about these radical agendas.
Yeah.
And so it's incredibly important that we have godly people that are bringing sacred values into our everyday lives.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's where people are ultimately going to flourish. That's where a country is going to flourish. And we know of even countries in Africa that are pushing against the North American Western liberal agenda.
Right.
And even has gone as so far as to not, accept funds and everything else because they want
Right.
their country to stand on particular values.
Like you make a statement, as you're speaking, you make a statement all the time about how truth informs, like even truth informs love, right?
Right.
We have this whole thing about everything's love, everything's
Yeah,
love.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
and you've made this statement about truth informs love. Well, truth informs policy.
Yeah.
Truth informs ideas and
Right.
laws
Yeah.
that should be passed. And without it, without the influence of truth, without the information that is coming from godly values, then you see the chaotic nonsense that,
Right.
that goes on. So I don't know, maybe you want to expand on, because it was your statement about how truth informs.
Yeah, no, I think I think if any ethic that we're moving towards, or any value that we consider valuable that we want to move towards as a society, as a people, even as an individual, you ultimately have to say, hey, is this informed by truth? Like, what is informing this? And so, for instance, let's just take the liberal agenda as it relates to all the rights that are given to the alphabet people and the trans people, and rights are removed from religious groups like Christianity. It's like, what's informing that decision, right? And they would say, well, it's love. Well, what kind of love, right? That is pushing mental illness towards children and the rest of it. Like, is that really love? And so there, you debunk that, hey, what you're pushing is actually not informed by love. It's actually informed by delusion.
Right.
And so I love what you said. Policy should be informed by truth. Absolutely. And so I think that's why for Christians, it's so important. It's like, so should Christians be in politics? I would say Christians should be wherever God has called them to be. And so if God has called you in that realm, in that sphere,
Right.
go be there. It's kind of like the old, hey, what's the point of praying if God already knows, what I'm going to pray for, and God already knows the future. So it's like, what's the point of being in politics if God already has this plan? It's like, no. You can be called to this area to influence and expand and bring the kingdom in these places, so that countries can flourish and people can flourish.
And I believe that, Pastor Moses, I really believe people are called of God, anointed of God, that is their life assignment. It is a very toxic arena. Right. It is a very dangerous arena. It's almost like, you and I were talking off air. It's like a vortex that people that go in there with the greatest of intentions, and then they find that, wow, the system is massive, the media is vicious. They have an agenda, they have a bias that they are going to promote, and they're going to ridicule everyone in sight that doesn't agree with them. And so it is very easy to compromise. It is very easy to get caught up in that political system and lose truth. And sometimes we've seen people lose their values.
Right.
All because I really believe they didn't fulfill what it says in Daniel chapter 1, that they didn't predetermine what, not only what they would believe, but who they are. And I think they underestimate the power of that political system,
right,
and how it will, if it can't get rid of you, it will do everything to subjugate you. And if you are not rooted in your values, in faith, in God, that thing will eat you up and spit you out. But do we believe, and do we encourage people to look for? And by the way, at any level, it might be municipal, provincial. I mean, we've got so many levels of government. It's these are places of authority, of influence, of leadership. If that's your calling, go ahead and fulfill it. And then when you arrive there, make sure that you remain true, to the one that anointed you to be there. And by the way, to the people that even signed up for you to be there, right? Because this is what happens, right? You get sent there with a mandate, you win. And then it's almost particularly on what we would call on the right side, is then they spend all their time there, almost trying to appease the people that didn't vote for them. It is the most bizarre thing. At least the people on the left, they just tell you, hey, here's our agenda. And when we get there, we're going to just drive our agenda.
True.
That needs to be fixed. That needs to be fixed.
So true.
Yeah. But as far as now, do I believe the church as a whole should have a voice? Here again, in legislation, in policy, 100%.
Yeah.
But we have to be very, very careful that we kind of don't lose our mandate and our mission corporately,
Right.
and we need to focus on the message of the gospel.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Awesome. Well, hey, listen, thank you for joining us for today's episode. Man, pray, ask God, maybe you're called into this arena to bring influence, to bring change, and to impact lives. Pastor, thank you for this conversation.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, listen, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, like this video, share it, do all that good stuff. We love and appreciate your support. We'll see you next time.